there are only two answers in terms of who had the greatest breakout game for a Vol.
Okay. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. So could they could have played before, right?
They could have played before, but the real thing, what makes this difference from the unknown Vols is like they became basically a star after this game on a consistent basis.
Okay, what do you got? I'm interested to see which direction you go here because you feel strongly about two. So lay it on me, brother.
All right, one of them is 2001 Kelly Washington versus LSU. To this day is the school record for receiving yards in a game. Didn't really catch anything before that game.
Okay, and do you remember at the end of that game that he had gotten criticism for pointing to the stands? He was pointing to his mom, and people said he was showboating. And an offensive lineman at the time came up to me and said, "Man, we don't even touch the ball, and here he is showboating, and he's just been here for a couple months." But do you remember after those performances, he specifically went around and patted the offensive lineman on the head and was less demonstrative than he was?
I did not know that. No,
yeah, he did. He went out of his way and like smoothed everything over. Then he smacked his head and had a neck injury against Georgia. So people always remember him as a bad guy. He was trying to improve his image after that. So, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. What else you got? Biggest breakout Vol? Because I have the best one.
The other one is after arguably who would have become the greatest running back in Tennessee football history suffered what became a career-ending injury. Tony Thompson comes in, and in his first start,
Thompson, 220 yards. I was at that game. My stepdad took.
Yeah, 1990, 248 yards. Literally, the only person who had ever rushed for more yards than Thompson did that day was Chuck Webb, the guy he replaced from injury.
Yeah, and you're like, God, this guy's every bit as good. He wasn't. He wasn't as good as Chuck Webb. Chuck Webb, I think, was one of the most talented tailbacks that I'd have ever seen. All right, so those are your two. We got a whole new segment here as we freelance a little bit. Mine is, though, more significant than either of your two.
What
you know why?
Why?
Okay. It's J-Lou. It's Jamal Lewis against Houston. 13 carries, 135 yards.
Wait, Houston? Don't you mean Ole Miss?
No, I'm going Houston.
Houston was 98.
I said 98? Did I not say 98?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I wouldn't. Okay, I'm surprised that was a breakout game. You call that, but okay.
Okay, here's why I call that. Well, okay, sorry. Excuse me. The year it was 90. My goodness, I'm getting a little twisted and turned around here. His first year, he didn't play against Florida, and Mark Levine played. So help me with that. I got my years twisted up. The week after the Florida game, in which Mark Levine played, and then it was Jamal Lewis who had a big breakout game. So it was significant in that everybody said, "Why didn't you play that guy last week?" Well, he wasn't good in pass pro, but that was his breakout game. Can you help me on?
Yeah, that was 90. That was 97 versus Ole Miss.
Okay, 97 Ole Miss. You're right. So 97 Ole Miss. Sorry, seen a lot of football games. But that would be my biggest breakout performance. But I don't know that there's any others that compete. If you want to throw one on the message board, feel free. That even really compete with that. Now, if you want to stretch it a little bit, how about Hendon Hooker going from good to great on the national stage against Alabama? But that's not a breakout game, really. I guess it was a breakout from good to incredible, right?
If I were to do Hendon Hooker, and there's a good one, it would be it's the game that Josh Heupel ignores because he says the Kentucky game of 2021 was the defining moment. No, the Missouri game of 2021 was. And I would say Hooker in the Missouri game, I'm pulling up the stats now. He threw for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then he ran for 80 yards and another touchdown and led Tennessee to a 62-24 win. Missouri was favored in that game. And so I think that would – but the breakout game for a quarterback is probably Josh Dobbs' 2014 South Carolina, where South Carolina had a 2-touchdown lead and Dobbs led them back with – he scored 2 touchdowns in 3 minutes and had 5 total touchdowns and over 300 yards in the game.
Okay, now Travis says on our message board, Travis Stevens. I don't remember him having a breakout game. I remember him being a lot like Tony Thompson in that he was there when needed because Tennessee you thought was going to take a major step down at running back with Thompson and Stevens, and they didn't. I don't remember a breakout game. Do you?
No, I don't remember a breakout game. Particularly, we have to remember when Jamal Lewis first went down in 98, Travis Stevens and Travis Henry were splitting reps at first, and then Travis Henry kind of emerged as the main running back because all due respect to Travis Stevens, a great, loyal guy, but Travis Stevens was not as good as Travis Henry or Jamal Lewis. He just wasn't.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't remember a breakout game. Travis on our message board, maybe you can help us with that. The other one that can I pick a breakout throw?
Okay.
All right. So a breakout throw. There was a guy who he went on to do pretty good things, but he was thrown into the fire at UCLA. He was not ready. And then the next week against Georgia, he threw Peyton Manning threw a deep out route that I said, that's a special guy, a special player. And while there was some debate whether Tennessee should go with him or Brandon Stewart or even Todd Helton was in that mix after Jerry Colquitt got hurt in the opener against UCLA, he made a deep out pass. And I still remember, I remember Mike Keith, who was hosting Sports Talk at the time, saying that was the type of pass that changed the way you perceive Peyton Manning. He was not a caretaker that's going to, put you in the right position and super smart. He also had the arm. He had the ability to be elite. And boy, I still remember that out pass against Georgia. It was early in the game where you're like, that's an SEC quarterback, no question.
I think I remember Jimmy Hyams talking about that. He was interviewed for, there was a E60 documentary called The Book of Manning.
He was, yeah.
And I think I remember seeing him talk about that. The thing that stood out to me about that year was Cutcliffe did an interview one time. I know Tennessee had lost to Alabama in the last second or in the last minute that year because they failed to convert a fourth down in the red zone. And Peyton had a wide open touchdown pass, but he threw it the other way. And the reason he threw it the other way is Cutcliffe had coached him never throw against a blitz, like never throw where the blitz is. And Cutcliffe comes back later and it's like, honestly, I should have trusted Peyton Manning to throw where the blitz was because he'd be able to make that throw and he would have known how to loft it to the wide open receiver.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question that David Cutcliffe was conservative with new guys that were in there. T. Martin still, I think, is a little miffed that he wasn't able to do more earlier in 1998. As a matter of fact, I talked to him about it. So I know he was. He thought he could handle more. But I'm
Randy
sure
Sanders turned him loose in 1999, and he was worse. So I mean,
so maybe he wasn't ready. But they were pretty conservative in '98. But it worked. I mean, that's why we're doing a Celebrate '98 series with Eric Westmoreland emo that'll drop later today. And some of the stories were so cool that you just got to check it out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff because basically he and Fred White, who joins us every Friday, were both on the strong side. And they would freelance. Their chemistry was so good. And you listened to that too, because I wanted to get your thoughts on it. But he freelanced. They would be able to freelance as to who is going to blitz, who is going to attack the box because they knew each other and they were so incredibly smart. So that's that chemistry, the type of thing that you're going to get from the Celebrate '98 series. So I still am not completely sure of Lonnie Walker's backstory, but it led us to the breakout Vol, and it also led us to best unknown Vol performance. So a couple of good talking points there.